I feel like this channel's almost become the Hugo Ekitike channel, given how much I've spoken about him, how much I've waxed lyrical about him. And guys, when he comes to the Premier League, if he shows his quality and if he turns Liverpool into this unstoppable attacking force, don't tell me I didn't try to warn you guys. He's an incredible player. It looks like Liverpool are going to bid 95 million euros for him, and it's given a lot of questions to a lot of fans and a lot of people watching the sport as to whether or not he's worth that. People are making comparisons with Darwin Núñez and saying, look, is this another situation where Liverpool are spending big on a number 9 and it's not worth it, and it's another Darwin Núñez kind of situation? And I completely disagree. I think there's very few similarities actually between Darwin Núñez and Hugo Ekitike. I know one of the biggest points that people are talking about is Hugo Ekitike's big underperformance of his XG, and then they're taking that to mean he's a poor finisher and he's an expensive player, and poor finisher and expensive player, they're making that link to Darwin Núñez, which obviously logically makes some sense. But if you look at why the XG is reduced and the rest of Hugo Ekitike's game, which is what I'm going to do in this video, it dispels all of those myths. I don't think that that's a fair comparison, and I actually do think 95 million euros is worth it. I know that's probably, it feels like a bit of a hot take. A lot of people think of that fee and they think it's an overpay. I would be willing to say that I think it's a good bet. He's a top player who I think he can scale perfectly to this Liverpool side, and that's for a number of reasons. When you look at the quality of a player, you have to look at if the skill set that they have and the situations that they're thriving in are transferable to the team that you're bringing them into. Now, Manchester United are a team who, in my opinion, haven't done this really well over the last 5 or 6 years. And I'm just using them as an example because I've got the idea of Jadon Sancho in my head. Now, at Borussia Dortmund, what an incredible player he was. The ability to associate with overlapping fullbacks, players nearby, great movement in the box from Erling Haaland, the ability to play on the right-hand side with space between his opposition fullback and also him, but also on the left hand side as well. And that space that he was afforded in situations where he received the ball allowed him to showcase that quality, that good final pass. The opposition players were drawn away from him because he had those fullbacks around him. Now, I don't do a big analysis piece on Jadon Sancho, obviously, but United didn't give him those conditions to thrive in, and then slowly, paired with the environmental factors of the Premier League, etc., he's not lived up to the height that he initially could have done, for example. Now, I'm looking at Hugo Ekitike and I'm looking at all of the qualities that he does possess and then the situations that he thrives in for Frankfurt this season. And Liverpool, in my opinion, are the best suited team to get all of those qualities out of him and to have him suit and uplift the rest of the players in their team. Now, this is for a number of reasons. We know Arne Slot's side are a very versatile side. They don't play solely to have a lot of the ball and pen teams in to their box. They're not like a Manchester City or a Arsenal, for example, where they want 80% of the ball all the time and they want to unlock defenses that way and prevent any sort of deep defending. They're a team that, you know, especially once they've gone up, they've got a couple of goals, they don't mind sitting in and defending a little bit. And even if the game is at a 0-0 game state, they do play long and they do like to go more direct and play on the quality of their attacking players, particularly Mo Salah in big spaces. He's an incredible footballer. He can do it against low blocks for sure, but in big spaces, how good of a player is he? Now, in the season gone by, Liverpool won everything, almost everything, and they did so without having a goal-scoring number 9. Their number 9 in these situations, primarily Luis Diaz, was somebody who was an incredible presser. I think that's probably the main quality that he showcased during that season under Arne Slot. It meant the wingers didn't have to come and press, but Luis Diaz came and pressed directly himself, and then when the ball went over him or when the ball was progressed by the opposition side, he dropped back and he back pressed really intensely. Now, that defensive involvement meant, you know, it was fine. Like he did his bit there, and even though you want great attacking quality from your central attackers, Liverpool were fine. They managed with their wing quality and their midfielders and their fullbacks and things like that. Now, Liverpool, in trying to sign a new number 9, especially someone who's as expensive as Hugo Ekitike will want somebody who can contribute in attack. People are comparing him to Darwin Núñez, but for me, those comparisons are completely false because even outside of the goal scoring and the attacking contributions, which we'll get into as we progress through this video, he gives you so much more than just goals. Now, we've spoken about how Liverpool want very proactive central attackers in terms of their off-ball contributions. Wirtz has come in; he's top of dispossessions in the league, in the top 5 leagues, I think, in the opposition's final third. So he presses high, he wins the ball back, he makes things happen. He fits the culture of Liverpool perfectly. Ekitike, in the same vein, does the same thing. He presses really intensely, he drop backs and contributes to defence really impressively. He's not one of those number 9s who think they're a superstar number 9 and don't have to press and defend and all of those things. He doesn't have that ego where he doesn't get involved. He works tirelessly, selflessly in almost all facets of the game. The only part of the game he doesn't work completely selflessly in is his ability to take lots of shots around the box, and you want that from your striker. That's like a good bit of selfishness. So he drops back, he does all that defensive work. Darwin Núñez can do it from time to time, but I think the intelligence in when and how Ekitike presses and drops back to defend is probably a little bit better. On top of that, the top quality, or one of the top qualities from Ekitike, in my opinion, is how he facilitates play and how he releases the wingers or the second strikers in his team to then get in attacking positions. Now, we know Liverpool have brilliant attackers, especially Mohamed Salah, who you want to maximise in the next couple of years to see if you can get a few more trophies given his age. You don't want him pressing, you don't want him defending for 90 minutes a game. You want him kind of higher up, defending less, preserving his energy so he can make those decisive actions. Now, we've talked about the defensive quality of Ekitike. He can facilitate for that. How can he facilitate for Mohamed Salah's attacking quality now? Well, he drops deep brilliantly. He can play with 2 feet. And in that way, I can imagine when Liverpool are trying to build up, they go a little bit wider to perhaps a Bradley or a Konate or a Gravenberch. And once they've got the ball into those areas, they go directly into Ekitike. And he's got top hold-up play. I know he's wiry, he's a bit skinny, he looks like he can't handle the physicality of the Premier League. I would disagree with that. I think he's quite durable and quite smart in how he utilises his body, even though he's got quite a skinny frame. That agility allows him to kind of contort his body and release the passes to nearby players. So that's one way to get others involved. In doing so, perhaps you can get Mo Salah moving inside, because Ekitike is dropped in and that space vacated can then be hit by a long pass from one of the central midfielders who received that pass from Ekitike. Not only that, but in transition situations, which he's brilliant in, and Liverpool like to play more directly, he can float to the wings, allowing your actual wingers to move into inside spaces. He makes tireless, very selfless runs into the flanks to free up space, and this is before the ball's even got to him or before there's even a counter-attacking situation. He makes these really consistent deep runs trying to push the opposition defence back. So if Florian Wirtz wants to drop in front of the defensive line into those number 10 positions in sort of these counter-attacking situations or in these more open space games, he can certainly do that because Ekitike is pushing the defensive line back again. And also in pushing the defensive line back, he can receive the ball over the top. So the variety in his runs, deep or long, is very impressive and it suits Liverpool massively. I know we've spoken a little bit about sort of Trent being that brilliant player in the past to force those more direct creative solutions, and Liverpool have to replace that with other quality. They don't have Trent now, but I think they're trying to replace that in general with a more sort of collective improvement in the passing. I think Frimpong kind of gives you that overlapping quality, that free Salah, but Wirtz is probably the player who can make that deep passing quality pay, really. And I think if you have him in those sort of left central midfield positions deeper, trying to play those long balls, Ekitike making these consistent runs, Mohamed Salah on that side as well, with that long switch, you've got a brilliant solution. So for me, when I'm thinking about Darwin Núñez, for example, and the comparisons that people are making with him, the only part of all of those things that he does is, one, he's got great intensity in his defensive work, but I think he lacks some of that smartness in terms of where to press and when to press. Secondarily, he's great at running in behind. He's a great outlet and he's got great pace. Sometimes he's caught offside, so the sort of timing and intelligence of those runs can be questioned. He lacks composure once he gets to the box to finish as well, but he doesn't drop in and facilitate as well as an Ekitike does. He doesn't make these selfless runs to the wide channels as smartly and as often as an Ekitike does. His hold-up play isn't as good as Ekitike is either. So for all of those reasons, you're paying extra money, but you're paying for things that get the best out of your teammates. It's not only for the individual themselves. If we move on to talking about the goal scoring quality, Ekitike, in my opinion, has shown a wider variety and a greater composure in his finishing. He's got two-footed finish. He's shown that he can dink the ball. I know Darwin Núñez likes to dink the ball as well, but I think when you give Darwin Núñez less time to think, he scores better. But we know that he's not a reliable finisher. For me, Ekitike in 1v1 situations tends to be a decently reliable finisher, but my question a little bit is how well he strikes the ball. Sometimes he strikes the ball a little bit off balance and it looks a little bit flimsy. And then the second thing that I think explains his XG underperformance is the fact that he likes to take shots very often. Now, I like that in my striker: up your shot volume, force rebounds, force tap-ins from your nearby teammates. If you're in the box and you can try and make something happen, look, it doesn't matter if your stats are bad. You only need one goal to force the issue in a game. And I like when strikers have top shot volume, as long as it's not, akin to bad decision making all of the time. We know from Ekitike's assist numbers, 8 assists in the league, and a brilliant partnership with Marmoush, that he's got a very smart brain. He knows when to release the pass and get his other players in and to try and score themselves. So I'm not worried about his decision making in general in and around the box. If he does feel a little bit crowded out or whatever, instead of trying to recycle the ball, instead of getting dispossessed, he'll just take a shot. And when he gets a sight of goal, he'll take a shot as well, even if it's from slightly wider areas. But I don't mind that. I think it helps explain why his XG is a little bit low. I think Darwin Núñez kind of has that, but Darwin Núñez also gets into really open and really good chances, or spaces rather, and he misses those chances. Whereas Ekitike, he can do, but I don't think it's a reliable enough metric, the XG, off of one season to go off of. If it's a pattern that happens throughout his career, sure, fine. But even if that's the case, he's got so much quality otherwise where he can maximise the quality of his teammates that I think that fee is probably worth it. And if he regresses anywhere close to the average of his XG, you're looking at a 20-goal, 10-assist striker in the Premier League, which is ridiculous. That's sort of like that two-way threat or that two-style threat of being a scorer and somebody who can facilitate an assist and press and work defensively is very rare. He's basically got everything if he can just tidy up that finishing, or if he can get the ball in situations that suit him, rather than just kind of having to do all of it himself, which is what I had to do at times at Frankfurt, particularly in the second part of the season. The last thing I'll mention before I wrap up this video as to why I think it is a good or worthwhile fee and a worthwhile punt in this transfer market is because, look, his age profile and what we're seeing from him, he's somebody who can kind of give you 6, 7, 8 seasons at the top level. Now, I made a tweet yesterday and I did the round, so I'm going to read it actually for you word for word, because I don't think I'll be able to say it off the top of my head as good as I did tweet it. But I said, Isak joined Newcastle for 63 million in 2022 from Real Sociedad, having got 6 goals and 2 assists in 32 league games the season prior, and it was still worth it. It was a big fee. It was years ago. He hadn't come off of the most prolific season, and if you'd asked anybody now, they would say, look, off of the seasons that he's had at Newcastle, that was certainly worth it. Now, 3 years on, market inflation, and a 15-goal, 8-assist season in 33 league games for Ekitike. Look, it's a heavy fee, I know, but if you're comparing like for like to Isak, it looks more reasonable. That 95 million euro fee compared to that, I think, 70 million euro fee from Isak a few years ago makes sense. And it's not only that, but the teams that have been linked to Isak and Ekitike are very similar. I've got a really nice tweet from Matisse, actually, and Matisse goes, When Campos, Edwards and Newcastle's recruitment team all either attempted or signalled him, he's clearly a good footballer. And it's true, Liverpool were really in for him. Newcastle have wanted him for years, 2 or 3 years at least. And that's even prior to getting Isak, I think. They were really interested in him when he was at PSG. And the recruitment team that were able to get Isak and have him perform and platform so well were also the recruitment team that have been so heavy on Ekitike for a number of years. These are all green flags to me. Certainly, these are all green flags to me because you're looking at very smart individuals. You're looking at people who know the game, who know how to find a bargain in the market or find players who can scale up massively when put in the right environment because they've got the skill set necessary to do so. Even if they're not putting up the best numbers immediately, you can see how they can be utilised, and to bring them in, Liverpool and Newcastle are 2 of the best teams at identifying that quality and bringing that into their team. At 23 years old, for 95 million euros, if you can get a player who for 6, 7, 8 years, like Alisson, like Van Dijk, is one of the best players in their position, who explodes in terms of his development, who refines some of his attacking quality like Isak did, look, it's an incredible buy in my opinion. There's a lot of what ifs. Look, if he settles in, if he is homesick or not, if he can handle the physicality of the league, which I think he probably can. There's a lot of questions, and injuries as well, play a massive part into all of these things. But I think they're trying to take that same style of punt that they did all of those years ago. When they go for a rebuild, they rebuild heavy and hope that it lasts them with a core for many years while supplementing it with a few players every season. I think is a very smart strategy. And look, at worst, if he's a patchy finisher, he's still somebody who can profile as a player who gets the best out of everybody else around him and chips in with a few goals. Liverpool have shown they can win the league with a player like that. But if he's somebody who can chip in with goals as well, then you're looking at massively elevating your team for 6, 7, 8 years. The striker market is always difficult. If you can get that headache off of your plate for a good 5 or 6 years, then you're laughing. It's a brilliant move, in my opinion, to target him. He's a top level player and he's the perfect stylistic fit for this Liverpool side. Ekitike is making the right move, I think, going to Liverpool rather than trying to go to a different side who perhaps don't utilise his strengths to the best of his ability. And look, I hope he has a good career because I'm a really big fan of how he plays, how he talks, and what he represents. So, look, 95 million euros is very steep, but I'm willing to say it's a very smart decision at the same time. We'll see how it goes, but the league is in for one with this crazy Liverpool side and what they're building at the moment. I'm excited to see how it plays. As a neutral, I'm worried to see how it plays as a Manchester City fan. I'll catch you in the next one.